Our good friend, Attorney Kim Baer, joining us in the studio with us today to talk about some things that a lot of people don't really think about, right offhand, but some really important information in case something happens.
Yeah, so in case you're in a car accident or something happens and you're injured and you know you're going to be making a claim at some point. In the past, we've already talked about what to do when you're in a car accident. Make sure you take photos of all of the vehicles. But then what are you supposed to do while you're treating? And so I thought this morning I'd just share some of the tips that we share with our clients so that people are making sure that they're doing things as they go along.
Now, would this apply for things like with the weather turning the way it is now, with like slippery staircases or sidewalks, things like that too?
Yes, I mean it could apply to slip and falls, dog bites, if you're hurt on the job, things like that. Primarily car accidents, but all the tips I'm giving you today, you could apply really to anything where you think you're going to have to make a claim. So the first thing is, after you've taken the photos of your cars, if it's a car accident, make sure that you take photos of your injuries. So, bruises a lot of times don't last very long. So if you've got bruises, make sure you take pictures of the bruises. If you've got, God forbid, some type of broken bone, take a picture of that. So, because usually at the hospital, they don't do that type of thing.
As morbid as it might seem,
right.
As weird as some people might think, it's a really good idea to do that.
Right, because one of the things that we're trying to do when we're negotiating, after you're done treating and we're negotiating with the insurance adjuster to try and get you a settlement for your injuries, is we're trying to explain or convey to the insurance adjuster what you went through. So what better way than, look, here's the pictures of the bruises, it really hurt, here's the picture of, the broken leg or the cast, so yeah, it's gruesome, but, it just helps the insurance adjuster understand what you've gone through. So
you have a time period before you can file a claim, as we've talked about before on the program.
Exactly.
What if you realize down the road, I need to file a claim, but you didn't take those photos? Maybe it was an internal injury or something like that. Is there any way of still proving that down the line?
Well, then we look at the medical records, and we basically kind of talk about what's in the medical records, which actually brings me to another point, Jackie. We want to make sure that when you are talking to your doctors, that you are making sure that you give the doctor a full list of your complaints. It's our human nature.
As trivial as they might be?
As trivial as they might be. Our human nature is really, we don't want to be a complainer. So we might say, oh, well, what's really bothering me today is my neck and my back. Well, maybe you also hurt your knee in the accident and it's getting better, but if you don't report it to a medical provider and it doesn't show up in your medical records, then it's hard to argue with the insurance adjuster later to say it was caused by the car accident.
So it has to be documented.
It has to be documented. So what we do is we tell people, because you've already got a lot of things going on in your life if you've been injured, and you're overwhelmed. So just make a list. Take a list with you. When you're going to go to your doctor or your physical therapist or your chiropractor, just take the list with you. So that way you can say, okay, here's what's bothering me today and here's what's been going on this last week. And you can just make sure that you've told them everything.
So a professional has documented
Exactly. So a professional has documented. Another thing is keep a calendar. And what I like to tell people is on that calendar, write down the things that you missed. So for instance, if you couldn't go to your daughter's, recital, yeah. Or you would have gone to the soccer game, but you can't sit on the bleachers and it hurts your back. Or you were supposed to go on this vacation and it got canceled. So anything that you're missing, or the other thing that we like to have people document is things that hurt. So let's say that today I tried to go grocery shopping and I just couldn't make it because I couldn't walk that far. Just document that today I tried to do that. Or I bought groceries, but I couldn't lift the bags. So that
What is that going to do? If people make that calendar, how is that going to help them in the long run?
That helps them because, again, our human nature is to, once you're better, to kind of forget all the horrible things you went through and all the things you couldn't do. So let's say that you've been treating for 4 months and then you come in to talk to your attorney and your attorney says, okay, now give me a list of all the things you couldn't do. It's hard for people to remember because we're not programmed that way. I mean, if we were programmed to remember pain, and no babies would be born. You'd have one, you'd be like, that's it, I'm done.
Every family would have one kid.
One kid, but that's not the way, our system works. And so that's why we just want people to document. And because it's also not our nature to complain. So you want to make sure you do that. The other thing is, make sure you go to your doctor, and make sure that if you're sent to physical therapy that you finish physical therapy. A lot of times people will say, yeah, I was told to go to 10 sessions. After about 7, I was starting to feel better, and it was a pain because I couldn't get off work or whatever, so I stopped going. And what the insurance adjusters a lot of times will say is, well, she didn't even complete treatment, you know?
Can't be that bad.
How bad? Yeah. I mean, because if it still hurts, it's still hurting a year later, but you didn't finish physical therapy, that's going to be used against you. So it's kind of like when your doctor gives you the antibiotics and says, make sure you take every pill. When you start to feel better, don't stop. It's the same thing with physical therapy, chiropractor. You know, if your doctor says come back in 3 days so I can check on you, make sure you go back. So all of those things are really important.
Okay.
So cross the T's, dot the I's.
Dot the I's. It'll make a big difference in the end, because you can't believe how frustrated people get when I'm telling them, well, the insurance adjuster is saying this isn't related, and the insurance adjuster doesn't really believe what you're saying, and people are like, what? And I'm like, well, it would have been easier if we could document as we go.
So the most important thing I took away from this just now is if you do get injured, make sure you take pictures of your injury and then document everything you could not do because of that injury.
Exactly. And if you had to have people help you mow your lawn or do the dishes.
Didn't think about that.
Yeah, write that stuff down too.
Or even shovel in there.
Or even shovel the snow. So
it's things we don't like to think about, but accidents do happen.
They do.
Situations occur, so
if you have to pay somebody to do that too. So
yes, keep receipts of anything out of pocket. So just make sure that you've got all that stuff, because a lot of times later it's hard to recreate.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And any by chance any number that comes to mind that people could call in case something like this does happen?
Well, Lou, I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
Yes, we can be reached at 515-INJURED. We're right across the street from Vets Auditorium, and we offer free consultations.
Yeah,
so.
279-2000, another number too. So jump on the phone, get a hold of them, or just stop by, because nice people over there too.
Yeah, just stop on in, have a cup of coffee.
And plenty of parking too.
Yeah,
so,
free parking.
Wonderful. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you so much.